Hey there, it's Raju. You know that feeling when you made a major decision in your life and part of you is thinking, what if I'm making a huge mistake? Well, that thought definitely crossed my mind when I last walked out of that office at Morgan Stanley. 18 years at one firm, managing director title, all that security and prestige just left behind. Today, I want to get real about what happens after you've made that life changing decision, when the initial clarity that you had wears off and reality sets in. Well, last time I shared with you how surviving the tsunami gave me the final push back in 2004. I needed to leave my corporate career, but the truth is, I had already told my boss I was leaving before I left on that vacation. I felt really betrayed after building a business for the firm for 18 months, only to have them renege on the promised equity ownership that I had negotiated before. So my boss suggested we discuss a new role when I return, but then the tsunami happened. It eliminated all hesitation on my part to leave. So what's interesting is that most transition stories only show you the highlights, the exciting decision, then fast forward to the successful outcome, and they skip over the very messy middle part. So here's what nobody tells you. Even with absolute clarity about your decision, you will still face multiple moments of doubt. The path is never linear, my friend. The path is full of valleys with peaks as well, of course. So, looking back on these past 20 years of entrepreneurship, I found three principles that have guided me through every transition and every difficulty I've faced. And they're the same ones I share with those executives that I coach today. So, the first principle is clarity of purpose. You know, most people think that there is one big purpose. And the truth is, you have multiple purposes, but it's about intention. It's about how clear you are about why it is you do what you do. So most people get stuck on the how. How will I make money? How will I find clients? How will I navigate this change in my life? But the how you will do this or that is much less important than, well, you guessed it, why. I mean, Simon Sinek says it the best, right? You know, what is your why? And it's not such a simple thing. I recognize that. I mean, he's written books about this. So when I left 20 years ago, I didn't have a perfect plan. I had a great idea. I thought I had a business plan. But what I wasn't clear about is perhaps, and I did not have great clarity on this, was why I needed to make this change. Was it to build something meaningful that reflected my values? Probably. To create a legacy and to be present for my family after that wake-up call in Sri Lanka? You know, that clarity of purpose carried me through uncertainty. On tough days, reconnecting with my why, which would reignite my determination. Now, the why has changed over time, but at the time, that why was fairly clear. I wanted independence, I wanted freedom, I wanted to be not subject to policies, processes, all of the stuff that goes with having a corporate job. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with a corporate job. What I'm trying to say is that when you're in transition, it's when the earth starts to shake under you. So if you're facing a transition now, for example, I would say start by getting really, really honest about your why, not the surface reasons, deeper drivers. What pulls you toward change? Is it coming from within, or is it coming from an external expectation or set of expectations? I'll let you reflect on that. Number two, the second principle, courage. Courage to take the next step. I would say it's about just getting started. This tyranny of how will always get in the way. If you start with the how, you've lost the plot. So start with the what and the why and focus on taking that step forward. So I've noticed something interesting about high achievers. They often want to see the entire path before taking the first step. They want every risk calculated, mitigated, and feel certain before they make the move. But that's not how a meaningful change really works. You don't need to see the entire staircase. You just need to have enough clarity to take the next step. When I started my first venture after my corporate life of however many years, just about a total of 30 years, I probably had about 20% of the information that I needed. I did the research, I had the plan, But it was clear that I needed my freedom. That was more important to me. But I moved forward anyway, because one of the things about confidence is that you will figure it out along the way. If you had the whole staircase in front of you, you would never take the first step. So it's better to just take the first step and the second and the third. Because courage is not about feeling fear. It's about acknowledging that fear exists and you taking action anyway. Third and final principle, energy management. A lot of people talk about time management and whatnot. This was the biggest surprise for me. I thought building a business would be about strategy and execution. But I really quickly learned that it was actually about your energy, both your physical and mental energy. In corporate life, external structures directed my energy, right? Meetings, deadlines, performance reviews, on and on and on. But as an entrepreneur, you have to learn about directing your own energy intentionally, which is what I had to learn. I had to identify my own needle moving activities, the 20% of the actions that produce 80% of the results, and focus my energy there. It is the hardest thing, and you might say it's discipline, but the truth is, you can't, if it doesn't become part of your life, it's very hard to do. If your energy does not have you in it, and you don't focus your energy to where you want it to go, you'll never make any moves forward. 20% of the actions that produce 80% of the results. That's where your focus is. Wherever your focus goes, energy flows. Everything else can wait or be delegated, but you must harness your energy to the most precious of your focus. Where you direct it determines what grows in your life. All right, some practical things that you can use right away, no matter where you are in your journey. I call it the energy audit. I've written about this a lot, but right now, energy audit, and it's something you still have to do. I do this very regularly. Take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left, write down activities that energize you. What energizes you? And on the right side, write down what drains you. What activities take away the zest of life that you feel. And now check your calendar for the past 2 weeks and see how much time you spent on each of those sides of the equation. And be honest with yourself. The goal here is not perfection, but you can increase the energizing activities of, even if you do by 10%, let's say this week, you will be shocked at how much more energy you have for the things that really excite you. And everything else can be either delegated, deleted, automated if possible. Why not just take X percent, 10% of the activities on the draining side and get rid of them? These small shifts really compound over time. That will create a massive change in both your effectiveness and your fulfillment. Listen, it's been 20 years since I made this leap, to entrepreneurship. And I can tell you this journey has not been easy, far from it, but it has been worth it. I've built 5 different businesses, each with its own challenges and rewards, I would never trade this path for what might have been a comfortable but unfulfilling retirement, Now, people think I'm retired. That's not the case. I didn't want to live with regrets, and I'm guessing you don't either. Next week, I'll talk about finding your tribe, not your community, when you're making unconventional choices, because the right support system will change everything. Until then, remember, clarity of purpose, courage of action, and conscious energy management. These principles can guide you through any transition. This is Raju, and I thank you again for joining me on Bold Conscious Connections. Stay bold and stay conscious.